Okay, welcome everybody, and thanks for joining me today. I'm Drew Boyd, and in this broadcast, I want to cover a topic that I find is very important to people. It's a source of frustration. It is one of the things that causes people to really struggle a little bit. Hold on just a minute. And let me go ahead and share some slides here. I want to talk about this idea of resistance to innovation. Why do people resist your ideas? And the fact is, you have to take this issue very seriously because your success in what you do is largely dependent on your ability to not only generate great ideas, but get them accepted. And funny thing, people don't always accept your ideas. And so in this office hours here at LinkedIn Learning, I want to go ahead and give you a reason why that happens and what you can do to start thinking about ways to overcome it. Now, let's go ahead and start with this question. And go ahead and type it into your chat function, if you would, what you think the answer is to this. When you're pitching your creative ideas, is it better to emphasize all the positive aspects? Or is it better to emphasize all the negative aspects? Now, you may be scratching your head, and yes, I'll tell you, it's a little bit of a trick question, but go ahead and type it into your chat. What do you think is the better way to go? Emphasize all the positive aspects of your ideas or emphasize the negative aspects? Now, if you're like most people, you would probably emphasize the positives. And to be honest with you, that's what I did always in my career. I thought, if I have a great idea, I'll just really hammer away at all the positive things about this idea. And you know what? As I got older, a little wiser, I started to realize that no, I was doing it wrong. I was doing it completely backwards. If you want to get your ideas accepted, emphasize the negative aspects. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but let me explain why. People already know why the idea is a good idea. You don't have to emphasize it. What worries them, correctly or incorrectly, are the negative things. They want to know why this idea won't work. They want to manage their downside risk. And you're going to do yourself a favor by pointing those things out. You don't have to emphasize the positives. They already get that. They're smart people. So emphasize the negative things. Here's why. Another reason. They may imagine things about the idea that are negative that aren't truly negative. And by giving them all the reasons why it might be negative, but show how it isn't, is actually helping your cause. And I'm going to show you how to do that. I'm going to give you, essentially, think of it as a scorecard about how you can take your idea and work people through it in a way that will get your point across, emphasize the positives and the negatives. There's another final reason why you want to pitch your ideas, your negative aspects first. It builds your credibility. When you start off your presentation by pointing out the negatives of your idea, people realize you're a pretty confident individual. It enhances your credibility by exposing the weaknesses of your ideas. And you've got to realize that all ideas have some negative aspects. And so for you, what this means in practice is just hammering the positives won't overcome the negatives. They're still there. You've got to find a way to overcome them. So let's talk about resistance, first of all, this way. Realize that resistance isn't a bad thing. That essentially resistance and creative ideas, they go hand in hand. They really are inseparable. You can't have really an innovative, creative idea without some resistance. Think about it. They sort of define each other. And resistance to your ideas kind of serves as a gatekeeper, whether it's from your boss or whether it's from your spouse or from your kids. Well, maybe not your kids, but But the point is, resistance helps you strengthen the idea. And my friends, listen, all adoption to ideas starts with resistance. So you have to figure out a way to address, not only address it, but expect it, and then a coherent, a rational way to overcome it. So let me share with you this. It's a realization that most resistance stems from some characteristics of the idea itself. People are looking at the inherent idea and asking themselves, what's good and what's bad about this? And if you had a way to kind of characterize what's good and what's bad about an idea, you would then be able to know exactly where the good parts are, where the not so good parts are. And what I'm going to do now is share with you what I call, think of it as a resistance scorecard. So, what I'm going to do here, just checking my time, is this. I'm going to go through these factors of the resistance scorecard one by one. And then we're going to do an example as a group. I see a number of you online now. We have people from Australia. That's great to see. We have people from South Dakota. Welcome. We have some people from Europe. Good to see you. All right, so we're going to get involved here, get you engaged in this. We're going to learn this scorecard. And notice what we have here down the column. We have essentially what are 11 different factors that are characteristics of the idea, good, bad, or somewhere in the middle. And I'm going to explain these. Across the top here is sort of a resistance, the degree of resistance to the innovation, to the creative idea. High means high resistance. You can expect high resistance to the idea. Medium and then low would mean we'd put low resistance. What we're going to do is we're going to put check marks in here where we do our example and show how this nice little tool can help you figure out and show others where the resistance is going to be. My suggestion, which I'll emphasize before we end here, is that you want to, anytime you pitch your ideas, have this scorecard, have it all filled out, or even better, do it with the people that you're pitching your ideas to. And so you all sort of agree together where the soft spots of the idea are and work collaboratively on overcoming them. Boy, I think you're really upping your game when you go about it this way. All right, so let's go through these. We're going to do an example, like I said, in a minute, but let me explain what these characteristics are. First of all, is the relative advantage of the idea. And that's no surprise. It's how good is the idea? What advantage does it give to ourselves, our company, our customers, our teams? Is the idea good? It's basically how advantageous the idea. But this second one is also important, how compatible it is with the organization. You may have a great idea, but it just doesn't fit what you do as an organization. It's not really compatible. It's not in your wheelhouse. And this one is pretty well understood. The inherent risk. So, is it a good idea? Number one, is it compatible with what we do, and what is the risk level? And so, for example, if you had an idea that was great, going to provide a lot of advantages, then you'd expect low resistance because of that. If the idea was compatible with your organization, again, you would expect low resistance from that. But let's say the idea is a little bit risky. It's not highly risky, but it's somewhere here in the middle, then we would check this. And so this is the pattern that we're going to follow. We're going to score an idea based on how much resistance we should expect on each of these 11 factors. Now, in my experience, most people just cover these top 3, or maybe even just the top 2, and they forget about the rest of these, and that's a mistake. And so to up your game a little bit, I want you to start using these other factors in how you pitch your ideas to your teams, to your colleagues, to your boss, to your customers, etc. Let's go through them. First of all, let me clear out the slides here and erase it. There we go. So now let's look at the other ideas. First of all, we have these 1, 2, 3, 4 is testable. Can the idea be tested before you implement it? If it's testable, you should get low resistance. But if an idea has to go straight in without being able to test it in any way, you're going to expect some high resistance from that. Is it testable? Number 5, is it divisible? And what that means is, can you do it in phases? Is it scalable? Can you start small and then ramp up to full production or to full implementation later? People prefer ideas that can start small and grow into it, as opposed to an idea where you pretty much have to go all in. Now, communicability is how easy it is to communicate the idea and the results of the idea. You know, you may have a very simple idea, but very difficult to communicate. Likewise, you might have a very complex idea, but it's really simple to communicate. And the difficulty of communicating an idea will affect the resistance to it. If it's hard for people to understand, guess what? You're going to get a lot of resistance to it. Number 7 is complexity. And what complexity means is, as the word implies, is the idea complex in terms of, a lot of moving parts, a lot of coordination required, a lot of maybe geographical separation. It's a complex idea with a lot of technology, perhaps, or a lot of people involved. And people tend to prefer less complex ideas to more complex ideas. So, call it out right up front. If it's a complex idea, admit it. Let them know, yeah, that's complex. This is an interesting one. Number 8 is reversibility. Can you back out of the idea if you change your mind or if it's not working out? Some ideas, you're going to have to stick in there for a few years. I use the example of some sort of software that you put out into the market that a lot of people rely on. And at some point, if you start running into a lot of issues of maintaining it and you can't easily get out of it, that's a problem. You want to know the reversibility. Can you turn the idea around and get out of it if you need to? People prefer ideas that they can get out of later if they so choose. Now this one too is similar, number 9. It's the flexibility. And see if I can get out of the way here. Flexibility is, as the name implies, can you tweak the idea as you go along? Can you make adjustments to the idea in terms of how it's implemented or where it's deployed or how it's used? Can you fine tune it as you go along? People prefer ideas that are flexible. If they're not flexible, you're going to get more resistance. All right, number 10 is realization. Realization is how long it'll take to get the benefits of the idea. How long will it take for you to realize the benefits? If it's 20 years, it's not going to be it's going to get more resistance than, say, if you realize the benefits in a year. And of course, that depends on the industry you're in. In pharmaceutical drugs, for example, a 20-year return is expected. That's actually pretty good. But in consumer goods, a new dish soap, for example, you better see some benefits of it right away. So it depends on what domain you're in. Now, this last one, let's see if I can get out of the way here because I'm blocking the screen. I'll just disappear magically. It says side effects. Let me come back into the screen here. Side effects is an interesting one, and let me explain what that is. Number 11, side effects means this. Will your idea impinge on other people in the organization? Is it going to take resources away or take attention away? Is it somehow going to have a side effect, a negative side effect? or a positive side effect. You know, if it's a positive side effect, everybody's going to welcome it. But my experience is your idea, if it's really good, is going to get attention, and it's going to come at some cost to somebody. Somebody's going to have a reduced budget somewhere, or less manpower. You know, it's a trade-off. And the bigger side effect it has, the more resistance you're going to get. Just that simple. So, here are the 11 factors. And again, my advice to you is to take this and use it essentially. Hold on just a minute here. I want you to use it in your presentations. I like to start my presentation right off with this chart, because basically what you're telling your leadership then is, hey, we have a good idea here. We got to go through it step by step and just understand its viability and its characteristics. And if you expose the weaknesses right up front, you're enrolling your colleagues and your leaders into addressing those issues that maybe need some work, that are maybe a little less on the positive side. So let's go ahead and do an example. Let's go ahead and do an example of this. All right, I want you to imagine that, let's say we all worked for Amazon. Now, Amazon, a few years ago, they announced that they're going to look at drone delivery. They're going to deliver packages with a drone, which I think is very cool, right? It's a very cool idea. Its day is coming. It's been out there for a while. We haven't seen the results of it like we probably expected. But let's turn the clock back and imagine that this idea is coming out brand new. And you're pitching this idea to your colleagues. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this idea and we're going to take the resistance scorecard, and then we're going to go down and we're going to answer and assess the amount of resistance that we are likely to get on this idea. So, package drone delivery. All right, here we go. Here's our resistance scorecard. And the first question we ask ourselves is, what is the relative advantage of this? Is it high? Is it an advantageous idea? Well, I think it would be, right? It would be an advantageous for customers if they get packages quicker, if they get packages in more remote places, or it somehow provides a lot of consumer benefits. So let's imagine that, this is a great idea. So we should expect low resistance from this idea. Now, is it compatible with what Amazon is all about as a company? Yeah, it's pretty compatible. What do? They deliver packages. I think it's very much within their domain of package delivery. They have airplanes now, they have trucks, they have big sorting facilities. They're all about the supply chain and the delivery. So this is very much a compatible idea. What about this one? The inherent risk. What do you think? Is it risky to fly around drones in a public area with packages? As a person who has worked in the aerospace industry for many years, I will tell you it's a pretty risky proposition. And, if you had a drone that crashes into a schoolyard with a bunch of kids, or, I hate to say something like that, but it's going to be risky, right? You have risk to the package itself. You have risk to people and property. So we can't escape that. That's just a fact. Now, is it testable? Oh, yeah. I think they're testing it right now. Very testable. They're learning a lot from it. So we would give this expect to get low resistance around its testability. Can it be done in stages? Sure. They're probably thinking about rolling it out in over many periods of time, months or even years, to get this thing to where it's working just great. So it's easily done in small scale and then ramped up to higher levels. What about communicability? Can you communicate the essence of this idea to other people? Yeah. I uh, I told my 93-year-old mother that Amazon was going to deliver packages by drones, and she looked at her condo and said, "Well, how will the drone get in my condo here?" I mean, she she immediately started thinking about it in terms of its benefit. It's really a simple idea. So you should expect low resistance from how easy it is to communicate. You can put this on billboards, you can put this on ads, and people are going to immediately understand the value of it. Ah, but here's another one: complexity. This is a complex project. A lot of moving parts, a lot of issues around how you get through, just fly through obstacles and get to the right location. You're going to get, whoops, sorry, you're going to get a lot of resistance from this one. You're going to expect high resistance. The complexity is high, and the resistance is going to be high. So we're going to have to think about how we reduce that. Reversibility, can Amazon bail out of this if they want to at some point? Yeah, they can. I'm going to give it kind of a medium to low, somewhere in here. It, it wouldn't be pain free to bail out of it. They'll probably have to make some significant investments and people and approvals. And getting out of something like this is going to be a little sticky, but not impossible. So that's not too much of a factor. Flexibility, can it be tweaked as we go along? Absolutely. No resistance there. Whoops. And what about realization? When will they see the benefits of this endeavor? The reality of that is it depends on the cost savings that Amazon realizes from this. If they save on every package, let's say they save 20 cents on every package delivered in terms of reduced costs, well, then how many packages at 20 cents a package does it take to pay back their investment? So it's really a financial issue, and I don't know. So I'm just gonna say it's probably medium to low, somewhere in here. Now, side effects down here. Side effects meaning, how would this affect other parts of the Amazon system? I would think that if anything, this is going to have a positive effect in terms of reducing workload on drivers, potentially on airplanes. It should not have big side effects, but we only know that if we were truly an internal part of the Amazon organization. So it's hard to say. For now, I'm just going to put it as probably low resistance. So what does this mean? We have two issues in pitching this idea. One is the inherent risk, and the other is the complexity. And the discussion that you should lead at that point in pitching this idea is simply, how do we reduce the risk? How do we reduce the complexity? And I would encourage you to recommend setting up a team, or hiring a consultant or something to help you address this. For example, what could Amazon do to reduce the risk of this project? For example, maybe they only fly their drones at night. Or maybe they only fly the drones in remote areas, rural areas, or less populated areas. Or maybe they only land on tops of buildings. They don't get down at street level. In other words, there's ways, piece by piece, little by little, to pull more risk out of it down to some tolerable level. You can't get rid of all of it, but you can get it down to a manageable level if you think about this. But the good news is you don't have to worry about all the other factors. You've taken those off the table with this scorecard, and that's why I love it so much. You get the smart people in your organization to focus on what matters here. And you get rid of that boogeyman mentality, like, oh, what else could be lurking with this idea? There's nothing else lurking with this idea. These are the factors that we have to deal with. Now, complexity, how do you make this idea less complex? Maybe they partner with another organization, maybe a university, or maybe a government body, or some other entity that can take off some of the complexity for them. Right? And those are the kind of ideas that I would be pursuing. So I want to wrap up here, and I want to thank you for attending. These are going to be weekly. We are going to announce the new topic at the beginning of or the middle of the week. I'll be putting out an announcement here tomorrow for next week. My world in the world of LinkedIn Learning is split between three areas. I have coursework in the world of creativity and innovation. I have courses in marketing and branding, and also courses in sales management. So these office hours will split time between those three topics. So stay tuned. Okay, let's wrap up here. I want to just make you realize something, that you're going to get resistance to your ideas. It's inevitable. And you should, if you don't get it, something's wrong. So the smart, savvy business person or person with a creative idea knows it's coming, expects it, and is prepared for it. That's what you need to do. And then when you prepare, that means you point out and enroll and pitch the negatives and get people part of the, so get them into solution mode, folks. That's the secret to your success. Get people into solution mode around the negative aspects of your idea. So just to wrap up here, I want to point out this is my latest book. And in this book, I do talk about this scorecard and how to use it, resistance to innovation. I also speak to the issues of the psychology of persuasion and some of the psychological principles that you can also mix with this scorecard idea to have a really powerful approach to how you overcome and deal with natural resistance that's going to come in your organization. So that's it for our live look in here, and we have a couple minutes. Let me go to my iPad here and just check to see how we're doing. We have questions. So I'm checking and looking at if we have any questions in the comments. If you have questions, go ahead and post them. I want to thank our folks for turning out today. And a good comment here from Kim Whiteside. She mentions that spending time exploring the side effects is so important. Yes, you are right, Kim. Very right about that. You can start to imagine all the tentacles of a project and how far-reaching they are. Great comment. I'm with you. Andreas, thanks for joining us, Andreas. Nice to see you. Always nice to have you. Michael Carr, Dr. Carr, thank you for joining me today. And let's go ahead and wrap things up here. I want to see if there are any other questions that you might have. Go ahead and put them into the comments. And one last comment before we adjourn here is, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can reach me at drew@drewboyd.com. Of course, you can reach me through LinkedIn as well. And you are free to suggest topics, number one. And we're happy to hear your comments too about, is this a convenient time of week, a time of day for you? Richard Tooley from Australia is with us today. And Richard, you're a diehard fan to be up at this hour. But seriously, we typically have a lot of viewers from Europe. And is this a convenient time for you? And what about our U.S. folks? So don't hesitate to weigh in with your views. And that's it for this week's Office Hours here on LinkedIn Learning. I'm Drew Boyd. Thanks again for joining us. Bye-bye now.